Amy Christine Dumas, who is better known to the wrestling world as Lita, is one of the most important women in modern professional wrestling. She was born on the 14th of April, 1975, in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. She started as a musician and roadie before training to wrestle in Mexico and the United States. She signed with the WWF around 1999 and debuted on television as Lita in 2000. From the first time she climbed a turnbuckle, fans noticed that she moved differently. She brought a fast, risk-taking, almost punk rock style to women's matches that hadn't been seen on a big stage before. Lita rose to real fame as a part of Team Extreme with Matt and Jeff Hardy, where her high-flying work and fearless attitude helped make women's wrestling feel more athletic and exciting. Over her career, she became a 4-time WWE Women's Champion and headlined some of the first major women's matches on Raw. Outside the ring, she started a punk band called the Luchadors and later wrote an honest autobiography about life on the road and in wrestling. Lita's influence was pretty clear. Many later female stars point to her as an inspiration. She was honored with induction into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2014. Her story is as much about breaking rules and taking chances as it is about championships. She changed what people expected from female wrestlers. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Early life and wrestling beginnings. Amy Christine Dumas grew up moving around Florida and finished high school near Atlanta. She loved music and the punk/alternative rock scene. She spent a lot of her early years around bands and small venues. That love of music stayed with her. She later sang in a punk band. But in addition to it, another passion quietly took hold of her, which was professional wrestling. When she saw high-flying luchadors on TV, especially Rey Mysterio, that very moment she knew that she wanted to learn that style and make it part of her life. Rather than starting inside a big American company, Amy chose to learn by doing it herself. She traveled to Mexico to study lucha libre, the fast, acrobatic style she always admired. In Mexico, she trained with several experienced coaches and absorbed a very different way of wrestling than the typical US style. It was the one which was built on speed, jumps, and a fearless approach to risk. Those months in Mexico changed how she moved in the ring and gave her the confidence to try the independent circuit in the United States. Back in the US, Amy worked small shows and training schools while polishing her moves. Her training resume lists some well-known trainers and veterans who helped shape her technique, including people like Dory Funk Jr., El Dandy, Ricky Santana, and others. That mix of American technical guidance plus Mexican lucha lessons made her a unique talent on the independent scene, which was athletic, quick, and willing to try things that the other women were not doing at the time. In 1999, she briefly appeared in Extreme Championship Wrestling, ECW, under the name Miss Congeniality. Her first television break came through ECW, where she was showcased to passionate wrestling fans who embraced edgy, hardcore matches. Her ECW role was small but important. It introduced Amy to a different crowd and showed promoters that she could handle the rougher, more unpredictable world of hardcore and extreme wrestling. Footage from ECW appearances shows her working as part of storylines and getting comfortable on live television. Those early years while moving between Mexico, indie shows and ECW were full of long drives, cheap hotel rooms, and lots of practice. Amy wasn't an overnight success. She earned attention because she had a clear identity, which was filled with punk rock energy, real in-ring skill from lucha training, and a willingness to stand toe-to-toe with male and female performers alike. Promoters started to notice, and not long after, she got offers from larger companies. The blend of musical roots, international training, and gritty independent experience is what made Amy Dumas stand out before she became Lita on a much bigger stage. Joining WWE, the debut. When Amy Dumas appeared on WWE TV in early 2000, she did not arrive quietly, but burst onto the scene with impact. She made her televised debut on the February 13th, 2000 episode of Sunday Night Heat, introduced alongside Luchador Essa Rios. On that show, Rios won the WWF Light Heavyweight Championship, and Lita was shown as his energetic punk-style sidekick who could do much more than stand at ringside. At first, Lita's role looked like a valet's. She accompanied S.A. Rios to the ring and helped sell his character, but that quickly changed because she kept proving that she could do the same high-risk moves that he did. On TV, she copied his moonsaults and hurricane ranas, and she even leapt from the top rope and apron, actions that made people take notice straight away. Those early spots weren't just flashy, they showed that she had real skill and the kind of fearless style fans weren't used to from women on big shows at the time. Since she carried herself like a luchadora and had the look of a punk rocker, viewers and commentators started to see her as more than just a valet. Promos and backstage segments gave her personality with attributes like tough, quick, and a little wild. In the ring, she didn't try to copy old women's wrestling patterns. She brought speed, flips, and an edge that matched the Attitude Era's louder, risk-happy feeling that made her a refreshing change and helped her win a growing fan base. Not long after the S.A. Rios pairing, WWE's creative direction shifted Lita toward a partnership with Matt and Jeff Hardy. That change turned out to be huge. Teaming with the Hardys as Team Extreme let Lita show more of her skills in tag and mixed matches, and it gave her regular chances to do the daring, crowd-pleasing moves she had become known for. The chemistry between Lita and the Hardys helped her move from being a curious new face to one of WWE's standout women performers. In short, Lita's WWE debut was small as a moment in time, but massive in consequence. Introduced as S.A. Rios' partner on a Heat episode in February 2000, she quickly used her lucha training and bold style to steal the spotlight. Within months, she was no longer just a valet, but a high-flying wrestler who helped change how fans saw women in WWE. Team Extreme, alliance with the Hardy Boyz. Team Extreme began like a small, unforgettable moment that quickly turned into something much bigger. In the spring of 2000, after a storyline split with S.A. Rios, Amy Dumas, also known as Lita, was rescued from a backstage beatdown by Matt and Jeff Hardy. The three clicked on screen and soon started being presented as a single unit called the Team Extreme. What made Team Extreme stand out was the mix of personalities and a shared taste for risk. Matt and Jeff were already known for their Daredevil tag team ladder and TLC work, and Lita brought the same fast aerial energy to the group. She didn't just stand at ringside, she jumped, flipped, and took bumps in ways women on big shows rarely had before. That athletic, anything can happen approach matched perfectly with the Attitude Era and made the trio feel fresh and dangerous. Team Extreme helped define an era because their matches felt like events. The Hardys were the centre of epic tables, ladders and chairs, TLC rivalries with Edge and Christian, and the Dudley Boyz. And Lita was often in the thick of those stories. She was often found at the ringside, interfering or taking wild spots herself. Even when she wasn't officially in a TLC match, her presence and willingness to take risks amplified the drama and made those encounters feel bigger. Their popularity grew fast. Fans connected with the trio's punkish, rebellious image with baggy pants, dyed hair, skate, and music vibes, and with a clear sense that these performers were doing something different. Mixed tag matches, 3-on-3 brawls and high-profile TV segments let each member shine with Jeff's daredevil stunts, Matt's technical creativity, and Lita's signature moonsaults and fearless style. Together, they brought a new kind of heat to the tag scene and gave a major boost to how women were seen in the ring. Team Extreme also had meaningful rivalries that kept them on top of the show. Their battles with the Dudley Boyz and Edge and Christian put them into some of the most remembered multi-team matches of the time, and they faced other groups like Right to Censor in storyline clashes that played well on TV. Those feuds weren't just about wins and losses, but were some major storytelling machines that let Team Extreme pull off memorable stunts and emotional moments that fans still talk about. In short, Team Extreme wasn't just a stable, it was an attitude. For a few intense years, around 2000 to 2002, Lita, Jeff, and Matt rewrote what tag team and mixed gender action could look like on the biggest stage. Their daredevil stunts and genuine chemistry made them a defining part of the Attitude Era and left a lasting impression on any wrestler who grew up wanting to fly like they did. First Women's Championship and rivalry with Trish Stratus. Lita's first Women's Championship win felt like a big turning point, not just for her, but for the whole women's division. On August 21st, 2000, Lita challenged Stephanie McMahon for the WWF Women's Championship on an episode of Raw is War and walked out as champion. It was a memorable moment because the match main evented the show, and because Lita's high-energy style made the finish feel earned and exciting. The match itself had a lot of heat. Stephanie was performing as a heel, surrounded by allies, and the crowd was solidly behind Lita. The Rock also played a part on the night as a special guest presence during the match, which added extra star power and drama to Lita's big moment. When Lita pinned Stephanie and won the belt, it signalled that WWE saw her as more than a side act. They trusted her to carry the title and to help change how women's matches looked on TV. Almost at the same time, a new personal rivalry with Trish Stratus was growing that would shape Lita's title reigns for years. Trish and Lita's feud didn't start with the championship match. It began earlier in 2000. The two had clashed in different matches and segments, including a strap match on July 24th, 2000 that Trish won with help from Stephanie. These early encounters planted the seeds of a rivalry built on contrast with Lita's punk, risk-taking image versus Trish's athletic model-turned-wrestler persona. When Lita secured the championship title, the conflict with Trish got intensified even more. Trish chased the title hard, attacking Lita on TV and answering every challenge with aggression and strategy. Their matches mixed personal drama with real-time athleticism. They fought in singles matches, mixed tag settings, and also in TV segments that kept the fans talking. The storytelling worked because both women had distinct characters and very different in-ring styles, so their clashes felt like more than just another title defense. The importance of this rivalry went beyond simple wins and losses. Lita against Trish proved to audiences that women's wrestling could be intense, hard-hitting, and unforgettable television. Their clashes helped WWE to lift the status of the Women's Championship and opened doors for deeper, longer stories for female wrestlers in the show. Fans still point to those early 2000s matches as the key moments that pushed the women's division forward. In short, Lita's first title win over Stephanie on August 21st, 2000 made her a central figure in WWE, and her growing rivalry with Trish Stratus turned into one of the modern era's most important women's feuds. Together, those moments helped change expectations, set the stage for many of Lita's most memorable matches to come. Pioneering moments, breaking barriers. Lita played a key role in reshaping how WWE presented its female performers. That shift was most visible on December 6, 2004, when she and Trish Stratus closed Monday Night Raw with the Women's Championship on the line. That night, Lita captured the title, and the match is remembered as one of the earliest occasions, often cited as the very first, where Raw ended with a one-on-one women's match serving as the main event. For many fans, it was a simple, unforgettable message that even women could carry a show's biggest slot and make it feel important. The pioneering streak started earlier. On November 24th, 2003, Lita faced Victoria in what WWE documents as the company's first ever women's steel cage match on Raw. A steel cage match is a brutal, final stakes environment. Putting two women inside it was an unmistakable signal that the company was ready to treat female rivalries with the same severity given to men. That bout was physical and storyline driven, and it pushed the women's division into grittier territory. The match showed that women could handle violent stipulations and still tell a compelling story inside the ring. Those two moments, the cage match and the Raw main event, mattered because they changed the questions people asked about women's wrestling. Before them, many TV segments framed women as side attractions or filler. Lita's in-ring style, a mix of aerial risk-taking and plain toughness, proved that women could be presented as serious competitors capable of carrying heated, dramatic matches. When WWE put women in headline spots or inside a steel cage, Lita's performances made those choices feel like good television instead of experiments. That shift in perception opened creative room for longer rivalries and more meaningful storytelling. Beyond individual matches, Lita's presence in major storylines and her willingness to take big bumps helped change backstage thinking. Her work with Team Extreme, her hard-hitting feuds, and her TV visibility highlighted that female performers could add real emotional weight to a show's biggest moments. That visibility inspired younger wrestlers and convinced decision-makers to give women bigger, grittier roles on weekly TV and pay-per-views. Wrestlers and wrestling writers often point to those years as a turning point that encouraged a new generation to pursue tougher and more athletic matches. In short, Lita's pioneering moments were both symbolic and practical. Symbolically, she proved women could main event Raw and survive a steel cage. Practically, she influenced booking choices, inspired a generation of performers, and helped make it normal for women's matches to be hard-hitting, emotional, and headline-worthy. Today's women, main eventing pay-per-views and headlining big shows, owe some debt to the risks Lita took on TV and in stipulation matches. Because those moments were broadcast on WWE's flagship show, they became reference points for fans and for the company when booking future women's storylines. Lita's willingness to risk her body inspired peers and convinced executives that women could sell big matches. Highs and lows, injuries and comebacks. Lita's career had some of the highest highs and some brutal lows, which both shaped who she became as a performer and person. In April 2002, she suffered the most serious injury of her career while rehearsing a stunt for the TV show Dark Angel. What first looked like a bad stinger turned out to be 3 cracked vertebrae in her neck. Doctors told her she needed surgery right away. On April 30th, 2002, she underwent an operation in which a section of her hip was used to fuse vertebrae C5 and C6. The recovery was long and frightening. Lita spent months rehabbing and learning how to trust her body again. She was away from full-time wrestling for roughly a year as she rebuilt strength and mobility. Her comeback felt like proof of both stubbornness and love for the craft. Lita returned to television roles and gradually to the ring, and by late 2004, she was back in the thick of things. And like I said before, on December 6th, 2004, Lita headlined Raw and won the Women's Championship from Trish Stratus, which was a huge symbolic moment. It wasn't just a title win. It announced to fans and to WWE that Lita could still deliver intense, emotional matches at the top of the card. But physical comebacks don't erase risk. Less than a month after that big Raw main event, Lita suffered another serious setback. During the New Year's Revolution pay-per-view in January 2005, she tore her ACL in a legitimate injury that forced a change to the match ending and shelved her once more. That knee injury halted momentum just as she was re-establishing herself as a top singles star. It was a reminder of how quickly momentum can turn in wrestling when bodies are pushed hard night after night. Lita's pattern through the mid-2000s became one of grit. It consisted of multiple recoveries, returns, and keep fighting for the big moments. By 2006, she was back in the title programs. She defeated Mickie James on August 14th, 2006 to win the Women's Championship on Raw, and later that year, she won the Women's Championship Tournament final at Cyber Sunday on November 5th, 2006 to claim the belt again. Over her career, she collected 4 Women's Championship reigns, a tally that underscores how much WWE relied on her as a cornerstone of the division. Those injuries shaped Lita beyond the scoreboard. They taught her to pick spots more carefully, to rely on experience over pure risk, and to use the microphone and storylines to stay relevant when the body needed breaks. They also made her achievements feel earned, with every title win after a long rehab carried the weight of what she'd been through physically and mentally. For fans, the story of Lita isn't only about moonsaults and shock value, but was about a performer who kept rising back up after being knocked down, and who helped push women's wrestling forward, even while fighting to keep her own career alive. Controversies and on-screen relationships. This chapter of Lita's story is messy, emotional, and a clear example of when real life and TV wrestling bled together with big consequences for everyone involved. For years, Lita and Matt Hardy were a steady couple. They had been together since about 1999, while Matt and Jeff Hardy were building their careers. In 2004 to 2005, while Matt was sidelined with injuries, Lita and Edge grew close. That closeness, whether people call it an affair, an emotional relationship, or something less clear, became public in early 2005 and set off a very public reaction from Matt and from fans. What started as private heartbreak quickly spilled onto the internet and into wrestling locker room talk. WWE soon folded the real-world drama into television. Matt Hardy was released from WWE on April 11, 2005. Amid the fallout, the release was widely reported and heavily debated at the time. Fans chanted for Matt at shows, and the heat on Edge and Lita was intense. Chants like, "You screwed Matt," followed them to arenas. WWE's creative team turned that heat into a storyline. When Matt returned in July 2005, he confronted Edge and Lita on TV in a segment that felt part shoot, part scripted angle. That blurred boundary where viewers weren't sure about what was real and what was being acted out made the feud one of the most talked about angles of the year. On screen, the angle painted Lita as a heel for the first time in years. She and Edge were presented as a couple, and the story gave Matt a brutally personal opponent. The feud ran through the summer of 2005 and peaked in matches and heated promos. For fans, it was compelling television precisely because it felt raw. But for the people in the middle, it brought real emotional pain and public scrutiny. Matt has since spoken openly about how awful that period felt for him, and Lita has also discussed the breakup and its effects in later interviews. The fallout changed careers and reputations. Matt's temporary release, the on-air confrontation, and the intense fan reactions altered how the three were perceived by audiences. Some turned Lita and Edge into top heels, while others sympathized with Matt and reacted badly toward the couple. Backstage relationships were strained. Commentators and writers later described the storyline as one of the rare times WWE knowingly blurred reality and storyline to drive interest. The long-term effect on Lita's career was mixed. She remained a central TV figure and headlined major matches, but the personal cost and lasting fan feelings complicated her public image for years. When you tell this part of Lita's story, the honest way is to say that it was complicated. Human emotions, mistakes, and the pressure cooker of being public figures all collided. WWE turned that collision into one of its biggest, most uncomfortable storylines of the mid-2000s. It delivered a truly unforgettable broadcast, bruised friendships, and a long aftertaste that each of the three, Lita, Matt Hardy, and Edge, had to live with and explain in interviews for years afterward. Final full-time run and retirement. Lita's last full-time run felt like the closing chapter of a wild, brave book, which is full of big moments, intense fights, and an ending that left many fans split between cheers and boos. The late 2006 chapter started with Lita and Mickie James at the centre of a heated feud. The two traded wins on Raw. One of the key moments came on August 14, 2006, when Lita pinned Mickie in a televised title match. That win fed the rivalry, and the two kept bumping into each other in singles and non-title gimmick matches through the autumn. When Trish Stratus retired and the Women's Championship picture was shaken up, WWE ran a tournament to crown a new champion. The tournament built towards Cyber Sunday on November 5, 2006, where Lita and Mickie met for the championship bout. The fans had voted for a lumberjill stipulation, and in the noisy, chaotic environment, Lita scored the victory and claimed what became her fourth women's championship. That win was billed as one last big push for Lita, and it put the belt back around her waist at a moment when she and Mickie were at their most personal and physical. Just days later, Lita made a surprise announcement. She told WWE and the audience that she planned to retire from full-time in ring competition, and that her match at Survivor Series, which was on November 26, 2006, would be her final scheduled outing. WWE framed the Survivor Series match as Lita's farewell, an emotional, rain or shine, end to a career full of high-flying risks and boundary-pushing moments. The company and Lita treated the run-up as serious, giving the match a lot of spotlight. Survivor Series itself was intense. Lita and Mickie put everything into a hard, fast match. In the end, Mickie James hit her finisher and won the Women's Championship, leaving Lita in the ring without the belt and visibly upset. That finish gave Mickie the title and closed Lita's full-time run as an active competitor on WWE's main roster. Videos and recaps from the show capture a mix of tears, boos, and chants as the arena processed the moment. The send-off was emotional, but also controversial. Some fans praised the match and Lita's willingness to go out fighting, while others felt the retirement angle and the way WWE handled the crowd and aftermath was awkward or unsatisfying. Commentators and later retrospectives have called the farewell a mixed moment. It was powerful because of what Lita had accomplished, yet messy because of crowd reaction and the rapid string of title changes and stipulations that surrounded her final weeks. In the end, Lita walked away on her own terms, though not in a moment universally seen as perfect. In many ways, it reflected a career that seldom followed the traditional script. Sporadic returns and Hall of Fame induction. After Lita retired from full-time wrestling in 2006, she didn't fade from view, but transitioned into a slower, more varied role with WWE. Instead of nightly travel and long title programs, she made special appearances, helped train new talent, worked behind the scenes, and showed up for big moments that mattered to fans. Those sporadic returns kept her connected to the company and reminded people why she was so important to a generation of viewers. One of her earliest post-retirement TV moments came in December 2007, when Lita and Trish Stratus reunited on the Raw 15th anniversary special. It was the kind of cameo that gave old fans a warm jolt. Seeing two of the division's most influential women together again, even briefly, felt like a small celebration of what they had helped build. Over the next several years, Lita would appear at select events, always treated like a special guest rather than a regular competitor. The biggest formal recognition of her career came in 2014 when WWE announced Lita as a member of the Hall of Fame class, and Trish Stratus inducted her at the ceremony the night before WrestleMania 30. That induction was emotional and public. It was a moment for reflection, gratitude, and for placing Lita's achievements into WWE history as the high-flying, risk-taking performer had officially been honoured as a legend. After her induction, Lita's role in WWE broadened. She worked as a trainer on the 2015 season of Tough Enough, helping teach new hopefuls the basics of the business, and later took a full-time backstage role as a creative writer and producer for a period in 2015 to 2016. Those steps showed a new side of her. She wasn't just a performer in the ring, she could also help shape talent and stories behind the scenes. Lita also returned to notable in-ring moments. In 2018, Lita took part in the inaugural Women's Royal Rumble and later teamed with Trish Stratus at WWE Evolution, where they defeated Mickie James and Alicia Fox. Those short, meaningful returns allowed her to reappear on her own terms, honouring her past while supporting the modern women's scene. Beyond matches, Lita was present for symbolic moments that mattered to the next generation. She helped unveil the new WWE Women's Championship after WrestleMania 32, formally closing the Divas era and ushering in the new women's division, a sign that the company was changing the way it treated female performers. Her involvement in that ceremony tied her early efforts to the present progress, a bridge from the Attitude Era into a time when women headline pay-per-views. Taken together, these returns and the Hall of Fame induction cemented Lita's legacy. She moved from full-time risk-taker to honoured veteran, coach, and occasional in-ring presence. The honours and the later appearances made the point clear. Lita helped change what female wrestling could be, and WWE and many younger wrestlers still look to her as someone who helped open doors and raise the bar. Recent comebacks and women's revolution involvement. After many years away from full-time wrestling, Lita returned to WWE in 2022 to show that she still had plenty left in the tank. Her big comeback began at the Royal Rumble 2022, where she entered at number 26. Fans erupted as her music hit, and she quickly proved that she hadn't lost her edge by successfully eliminating a few competitors. Eventually, she was tossed out by Charlotte Flair, but the appearance reminded everyone why Lita was such a beloved figure. Not long after, she set her sights on a dream match. On the road to WrestleMania, Lita challenged Becky Lynch for the Raw Women's Championship at the Elimination Chamber 2022 in Saudi Arabia. The match was emotional, as fans cheered loudly for Lita while she delivered her signature moves, including the Twist of Fate and her famous moonsault. In the end, Lynch retained the title, but the reaction after the bell told the real story. The crowd stood and applauded Lita, showing how much she still meant to WWE. Her next chapter came a year later. On 6th of February, 2023 episode of Raw, Lita returned to help Becky Lynch in her ongoing rivalry with Bayley's faction Damage Control. 3 weeks later, on February 27th, she teamed with Lynch to defeat Dakota Kai and Io Sky for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship. With some assistance from Trish Stratus, Lita captured her first championship since 2006, nearly 17 years later, a milestone that proved her career had come full circle. That momentum carried into WrestleMania 39 in April 2023. On night one, Lita, Lynch and Stratus teamed up to defeat Damage Control in a 6-woman tag team match. This victory marked Lita's first ever WrestleMania win. Her only other appearance as a competitor on the grand stage had been WrestleMania 18 back in 2002, where she lost in a triple threat match for the Women's Championship. More than 20 years later, standing tall alongside 2 generations of stars, Lita finally got her WrestleMania moment. Beyond her matches, Lita's recent run carried a deeper meaning. She wasn't just there to relive her past glories. Rather, she was helping to spotlight the women who are leading WWE today. Becky Lynch later said teaming with Lita at WrestleMania was surreal, and described it as an honor to share the ring with someone who inspired her to pursue wrestling. Outside the ring, Lita continues to make appearances at WWE's biggest shows, supporting younger talent and reminding fans where the women's revolution truly began. Years earlier, she even helped unveil the modern WWE Women's Championship at WrestleMania 32, cementing her link to this new era. Lita's returns in 2022 and 2023 showed that she isn't just a legend from the past. She remains an active influence, a bridge between generations, and a symbol of how far women's wrestling has come. Her legacy isn't only about the barriers she broke years ago, but also about how she keeps inspiring the women who are breaking new ones today. Legacy and impact on women's wrestling. Lita will always be remembered as more than just a WWE superstar. At a time when most women in wrestling were seen mainly as models or side characters, she broke the model completely. With her tattoos, baggy pants, and fiery red hair, she brought a bold, punk rock vibe that the fans connected with, especially those who never felt represented by the traditional diva image. She showed that women wrestlers could be both tough, unique, and she didn't have to fit into anyone else's idea of what a female star should look like. In the ring, Lita raised expectations for what women's wrestling could be. She performed high-risk moves like moonsaults, hurricane ranas, and the twist of fate at a time when few women were attempting such athletic spots on TV. Her fearless style inspired excitement and helped prove that women's matches could be just as action-packed as the men's. Her rivalry with Trish Stratus became legendary. Together, they didn't just compete for championships, but also helped change how women were viewed in WWE. Their matches showed storytelling, intensity, and athleticism. One of the most important moments came on December 6, 2004, when Lita faced Trish in the first women's match to main event Monday Night Raw. That episode drew strong ratings and proved that fans were invested in women's wrestling when it was treated seriously. Lita's influence can still be felt today. Wrestlers like Paige, AJ Lee, Bayley, Liv Morgan, Deonna Purrazzo, Melina, Taryn Terrell, and Maria Kanellis have all named her as an inspiration. Bayley, for example, once said, "Lita made her believe that women could succeed while staying true to themselves." This kind of impact shows that Lita wasn't only important during her own career, but she also helped inspire the next generation who carried women's wrestling even further. Her contributions were also recognised in symbolic ways. At WrestleMania 32 in 2016, Lita returned to reveal the brand new WWE Women's Championship, which replaced the old Divas title. From that point forward, female performers were no longer called divas. They were simply called WWE superstars, the same as the men. That moment has been remembered as a major milestone in the women's evolution, linking the progress made by pioneers like Lita to the opportunities available for women today. Even in recent years, Lita has spoken about the future of women's wrestling. She has said that the next step is not being confined by gender, and hopes wrestling can one day be judged on talent alone, no matter their gender. When fans and wrestlers talk about trailblazers, Lita's name is always at the top of the list. She proved that women could be daring, athletic, different, and the fans would love them for it. Her influence lives on every time a woman dives off the top rope, headlines a major show, or simply steps into the ring believing she belongs there. Marvelous verdict. Lita's legacy is simple to feel and easy to prove. She changed what people believed women in WWE could do. In an era built around the diva image, she brought a punk rock edge and a fearless high-flying style that demanded the same spotlight as the men. That shift crystallized on 2004 when Lita and Trish Stratus main evented Monday Night Raw. A barrier-breaking first that told fans, executives and wrestlers that women could close the show and deliver. A year earlier, she'd already pushed the limits of presentation by stepping into Raw's first women's steel cage match against Victoria. It proved that women's wrestling could handle the most physical stipulations and still tell a compelling story. Those two moments rewired expectations and became reference points for every generation that followed. Her influence wasn't only structural, but also personal. Future stars repeatedly cite Lita as the reason they believed they belonged. Bayley put it plainly, saying, "Lita was my huge inspiration. She didn't dress like other women, and that difference made room for others to be themselves while striving to be great." WWE itself recognized her as a pillar of change. In 2016, at WrestleMania 32, Lita unveiled the new WWE Women's Championship, formally replacing the Divas title and signaling that women would be presented as full superstars. It was a symbolic passing of the torch from pioneer to present. 2 years earlier, she'd been honoured with induction into the WWE Hall of Fame. Taken together, Lita's career is both blueprint and spark. Headline the show, embrace the risk, be authentically yourself, and watch the industry move with you. Modern main events, stipulation matches and championship spotlights for women all trace a clear line back to the doors she kicked open. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.